I was the chief experience officer at a boutique financial planning firm, which probably sounds very fancy. And look, it was a great job. I worked with people that I really liked and respected, and I agreed with a lot of their philosophy around financial planning and investing and things like that. Even though I was doing work that was enjoyable, it still was like a struggle to just like want to do more than kind of the minimum. The reality was I was living a pretty comfortable, predictable existence. I felt stuck. I'm pretty capped on income in that role. And it's easy to convince yourself like, oh, I'm okay. I'm not like living in poverty. I'm not in this horrible situation. But when you're doing work that's not really fulfilling, the term I used is I just felt like a caged animal. And deep down, I know that there was a lot more that I wanted to accomplish in my life. Sure, my job was great on paper, but it just began to feel like a slow grind. And now, this job wasn't terrible, but my corporate life in general was pretty brutal, I felt like. Too many meetings, rules, red tape. I felt like I had to act like a different person to fit into the corporate life if I ever wanted to get anywhere, and just kind of fake it a little bit. The frustration wasn't just around the work, just overall feeling trapped. I wanted to truly help people, but the system I operated in felt very limiting. So working initially as a financial advisor, then going and doing a lot of different jobs, ultimately recruiting financial advisors, that felt like I could tap into helping more people, because if I get a financial advisor in a better ecosystem and they're managing 600 clients, then I can help them kind of indirectly. Right, if that makes any sense. But even in working with other financial advisors, I felt like I'm just limited to helping their clientele ultimately. And I knew I wanted to help more people in a more granular way than just like getting a slightly better rate of return than the next financial advisor or than their 401k. And at some point I had a realization that it's not about running away from a job you don't like, but running towards something that lights you up, that gives you energy, that you like look forward to waking up to. And it slowly began to marinate for me that, I wanted to work on something that I wanted to work on, building something that mattered to me. And, just the concept of not wanting life to pass you by. A lot of people talk about having, the greater fear is the fear of regret than making a mistake or failing. You can always go back and get a corporate job. So if you're not in a job situation you like, you're thinking about quitting, think about, should I be running away from something, or is there something I'm running to? I'd prefer the latter. And so fun fact, the straw that broke the camel's back when I got let go, when you work for financial advisors, they typically get paid a fee for service. In this case, like let's say 1% as an example. And my firm that I was working with was managing like 130 million, and then the market took a dump. And so now you're effectively managing half that. So if they derive revenue from that, then like you start looking for places to cut, salary being one of those. So I ended up getting let go, but the straw that broke the camel's back right before that, this is a little nerdy, so bear with me. I was licensed as an admin because I was not in a producing role. I wasn't like, cold calling and like, selling clients in a manner in which I needed to have like securities licenses. That they would have had to pay more errors and omission insurance, which is just another behind the scenes kind of thing in this example. But ultimately, I was set up as a licensed admin, and so I'm towing this line because on LinkedIn, I'm talking about financial planning type content, and there was like a very, very fine line that I could say things, I couldn't say other things. It was quite a pain in the ass, to be honest. And I did a post about like, which is one of my favorite life hacks of all time. You can basically save more for the future without the pain associated with it, typically by just hitting the automatic increase on your 401k. So meaning if you're doing 6% to get the match now, you need to keep putting in more money over time to hit your goals, typically. So 7%, 8%, 9%, year after year, right? It's literally one button click. And as cost of living increases, like you're not going to feel that, you're not going to know that. And then you're going to wake up with a lot more money than if you did nothing. And so that, I guess, was a compliance no-no. And somehow that was giving investment advice. And so that was like the straw that broke the camel's back while the market had taken a dump. And, that was not my first infraction. So I got let go. And that's when I learned, a harsh truth that I think stability is somewhat of an illusion, certainly in corporate America. I mean, there are plenty of people that have jobs that are very safe and whatnot, but the likelihood is you can absolutely lose it. And you hear horror stories of people that worked for the company for 40 years and then got nothing, right? So I think stability is absolutely an illusion. Like you can work as hard as you want, be the best employee in the world, and still be absolutely replaceable. So I think security is less about having a high paying job, but being able to survive and thrive on your own, having control over your own path. so to speak. So I really was at a crossroads because we had just sold our house. My wife and I, a few months prior, we went to rent because we had planned on going all in on Airbnb at the time, if you can believe it. We had one Airbnb and we thought we were going to do more of that, and we're going to use the equity in our home to facilitate that. And then I got laid off. So the choice was I could go like network and try to find another job, and that just felt nauseating to me at this point. Or I could use this opportunity to do my own thing. And so, I like to say God had other plans for me. So the first time I got laid off from a job in corporate, I realized how unprepared I was for a loss of income. Thankfully, I had a good severance package, but I still remember feeling like I blew through it rather quickly compared to now having a system in place. And so I didn't want to make that same mistake again. So I built a simple automated system to handle my finances. And every Friday I paid myself and my wife and family the spending paycheck. And so when I'm like living on the equity as I'm starting a business, and by the way, didn't make any money until like 5 months in, because I spent all of my time building a course, which I would do some things differently in hindsight. But basically, it's very, very difficult if you're living on like a lump sum of money and you have no like business income coming in, no paychecks. My wife isn't working and I don't want to be freaking out. I want to focus on the mission at hand. And so this weekly spending paycheck was just like money for groceries and, doing some going out to eat or whatever, so that we have some semblance of like not feeling like we have to live on nothing, because that's another stressor in and of itself. But just depositing that money into a separate account, absolute game changer. And the rest was somewhat available for, if I need to like invest in this new business that I'm growing, which I did a lot of. If you've seen any of my content, you might know I'm already on my 5th coach. And I got the LLC in August 15th, 2022. So at the time of this recording, like maybe 2.5 years, a little more than that. And I've already spent over $50,000 in coaching. And so I'm a huge fan of that if you don't already know that. But basically the system that I kind of created removed the stress of the day-to-day so that I can focus on the task at hand of creating the course, of bringing in income, of working with clients over time. But here's something I think a lot of people don't realize. Working a job you hate is actually really expensive. It can absolutely suck away your energy, draining your mental health, putting negative stress on relationships, and even your finances as you try to maybe cope with the stress, treating yourself here and there, medicating in various ways. Conversely, when I went out on my own, now my time is my own. Now I own all of my time and I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, which is a double-edged sword. It's a blessing and a curse. It's Saturday. I'm filming part 2 of this video today after our my 7-year-old girl's soccer game, where we lost like 9-0. I'm the assistant coach, by the way, but that was crushing. And so now here I am on a Saturday filming, and that's just part of the grind. So anyway, before you quit your job, if you are interested in that, it would be highly recommended to have some sort of a financial safety net. Typically, in a perfect world, 3 to 6 months of emergency expenses, ideally on the higher end of that, if you were legit thinking about pulling the trigger and quitting your job. At first when I started this whole thing, I thought that the course was going to be the easy way to go. I shouldn't say the easy way, because it was anything but easy, but like the easy choice, meaning that like I can create a course and that people will benefit from this, and it's infinitely scalable in that regard. And so I was all in on this. I remember like laying in bed at 11 o'clock at night and I saw an ad for this program. I'll leave a link below, called 30-day course creator. Great program, highly recommend, but it was pretty expensive and I just like pulled the trigger on it. Usually I would talk to my wife. I ended up buying it on the spot, apologizing later. And then I even went further and went into their additional mastermind, which is like $1,000 a month at that time. It might be more expensive than that now. But was like all in on this concept to launch it. And, I wouldn't say it like failed, but I wasn't in a place to like replicate my income. By the time I like was running ads to it and trying to make that profitable, that was really challenging. Don't get me wrong, I learned a ton about Facebook ads, using like building a website from scratch, filming, all the things that I'm doing now that are help out in my day-to-day today. But then I ended up, this guy got in my DMs on Instagram, and I thought we were going to talk about, social media strategy or something. And by the time like I realized I was kind of like on a sales call, and he was selling me on the concept of coaching, and that people don't need the information, they need help implementing the system. And that was a massive light bulb moment. And I ended up moving forward and hiring him to be my first coach. And like literally the next month, like I had a very successful month, and it felt like, okay, I can see the path now. I can see this working. Not only that I can, support myself and my family, but like I can actually help people and kind of control the entire outcome and give them the help and the coaching they need to be successful with putting these puzzle pieces together and understanding why it makes sense this way. So, it's cliche kind of, but I think one of the things I learned is that success isn't like this. It's certainly not an overnight thing, right? Or even about getting it right the first time, but about being able to adapt and pivot and kind of cater to the market demand and just adjusting as you go. And, another insight is like, if I could, work the hours that I need to at a corporate job that I didn't really love, like how much better could I do when like I'm actually working on something that like brings me joy, something that I actually love. I say this all the time. I'm someone who kind of likes to get backed into the corner. That's when I rise to the occasion. I think so many of us do when we have like no other option but to succeed. And that's happened several times in the short run in business, and it's worth it. So yeah, corporate life was predictable. It was comfortable, but it was also a cage, at least for me. This path is absolutely messy, pretty unpredictable, and brutal some days, and very real. I work when I want, how I want. Even if I made less money, I'd never go back, because it's really not about the money at all. It's about how can I serve more people? How can I help more people with massive financial transformation? That's what gets me excited. And it's quite frankly about controlling my time. I can't get that back. In the end, it's about becoming the person that I feel like I'm meant to become. And if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about this, like, let me run through some pro cons for you real quick. So pro, you have complete control of your schedule. Con, you might be working some crazy hours and risk burnout. Pro, unlimited income potential. Con, unpredictable income, and let alone murky future of when that unlimited income is coming down the pike. Pro, the freedom to choose, what opportunity, what project, like I could talk about that for hours, but like what funnel do I want to use? What products do I want to create, etc. And the con there is sometimes it really is like the demand of the market and pivoting to accommodate that demand and burning through cash to figure that out. Pro, you basically building your own thing that you could sell one day that like has legit equity. The con is there's no kind of retirement safety net like you might have in corporate America, even with like a 401k. It's all on you to figure that out. Pro, complete control on business decisions. Con is it's on you, and those mistakes, you have to own them. Nobody to point the finger to but yourself. Pro, opportunities for personal growth abound. Like I was telling somebody yesterday, I've bought like 5 books this week, and just like cherry picking different nuggets for things I'm specifically looking for. Haven't even read the whole book, but just like finding nuggets on like this treasure hunt. The con is, the kind of adjoining steep learning curve, like learning to create a course, might sound easy, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. I think if I haven't already said this in this video, I spent like 5 months making $0 at the beginning. Pro, work from anywhere flexibility, which is super great. I'm in my home office right now, which I love that I can walk down the stairs and don't have a commute. But the con is it can be pretty isolating, and there's not a ton of people that kind of get what you're going through, which can be really frustrating and lonely some days. Pro, tax advantages of business ownership are nice. Being able to like write off this desk and monitors and all the lighting equipment, all that stuff. That sounds great, right? The challenge is there are a lot of downsides, like managing your own taxes and, all the books and all the legal stuff. That can always not be fun either. Pro, you can create your own company culture. So you're the boss now, and you get to decide, the rules and the culture. The con is, you get to own those mistakes and challenges and mess ups, and maybe managing other people. Maybe you didn't feel like you're signing up for that. One of the pros is you get to like receive the full reward for your effort, and like even the emotional reward for when people like have a transformation. And like I've been in tears over client success. Like clients have been in tears over their own success and their challenges, obviously. Con is like, it's not like you're actually getting paid vacation, or sick days or anything like that. Like you're kind of always on, and you have to like make sure there's enough money and that things don't fall apart if you go on vacation. So to wrap up, like I'm not saying that you should walk into your boss's office and throw down the gauntlet and quit on the spot. Probably a terrible idea. The smart way to do it is use your 9 to 5 and start a side hustle. Leverage your dream that way. Don't think of your 9 to 5 as like a prison cell, ideally, right? Think of it as your investor, and you have this opportunity while you're working in corporate to invest those dollars into your freedom machine, if you want to call it that. I know when I had like little side hustles before starting this while working in corporate, that gave me some energy to like get through the hard days at the office, knowing that I had kind of a fun project to sink my teeth into after hours. So you can absolutely start this thing on the side, grow it, save that money, and once it's like up and running to some degree, then imagine what you can do with 40 hours more a week to get after it. But definitely save that money. That's what made a huge difference for me. Having a plan that kept me afloat while I figured things out. And like, it's not just about leaving your job, like that shouldn't be the goal, but building a life you truly want should be the goal. If this video helped you, leave a comment down below. Weigh in. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe for more great content. I'm pumping these out every week, after all. And don't forget to watch the video, how I saved Emma $2,068 a month. In that video, I shared how Emma adopted my strategies and was able to turn down the stress and free up a ton of free cash. So check that out. It's linked below. Thanks for watching.